show. My name's Joey, and I'm joined by Paul.
All right, mate.
And by Laurie.
All right, mate.
Moments of the week. Paul?
It's our inability to score from 5 yards out after another great cross from Sterling, who is clearly too good for this division.
May I add?
And
go ahead.
No, and it's just like it's all the pitch is the bounce on the pitch. Sterling's managed to put in a half-volleyed cross, perfect into the centre of the box, and then later on in the second half, he put in that perfect cross for JCH to head wide. It's just like, if we're not going to score from a yard out after being set up by someone who's just like playing a level beneath him, we don't deserve to be getting any points, do we?
What I wanted to add was for missing chances from 5 yards out, also add chances from 10 yards out, 15 yards out, and all of the conceivable distances at the moment. While we were talking about Sterling and to try and put a positive spin on things, given how good he's been recently, if he kept this up to the end of the season, where does he sit in the pantheon of great loan signings over the last few years?
He's got to be up there, hasn't he? I mean, so after the AFC Wimbledon game, someone sort of pointed out the fact about 3 years ago, I basically moaned about the fact we'd taken fullbacks on loan. If you remember when we took Jerry Sterry and Lewis Page.
Yeah.
And my argument to that,
did we moan about them? I don't remember.
Yes, because they were shit. And this was my point, really. It's a case of, if you can bring in someone who's clearly brilliant, to some extent it doesn't matter where they play, because there is no better right back in League One. We couldn't have brought in anyone of his sort of quality basically anywhere else on the pitch by the looks of it. So the fact he's clearly the best right back in the division and clearly going on to better things, you can't pass that opportunity up. And I think the last time we scored an open play where he wasn't heavily involved was on Boxing Day. It's just, he's so important to us. It's just incredible how reliant we are on the right back to just, and again on Saturday, like you watch the highlights, all bar about 2 chances are due to him doing something not amazing, just being good, and not only just being good, also he's ice cold, isn't he? He's absolutely panic free. So the ball he puts in for Chaplin, it's bounced all over the shop. It's a horrible ball on a horrible pitch. Yeah, he's as calm as anything. The ball he puts in for JCH's header, I'll meander past this guy. Oh, okay. Oh, I'll get to the byline, but I'll still stun an amazing cross up. It's just, as I say, enjoy it while it lasts, because I don't think we're going to get a player of that quality again for a while.
Lovely stuff. Laurie, your moment of the week.
Moment of the week was on Saturday when I briefly took time out from the beach to check what the score was, and seen that it had been 0-0, and then it abruptly changed to 2-0, and I just switched my phone off and didn't think about it again for 2 days, and I was very, very capable of just forgetting all about Cov, because in that moment I just thought, this season, much as I spend a lot of the time thinking about what could happen in a positive sense, just looking at that result made me think, you know what, this season is just going to be a middle of the road season. Hopefully, kind of, sometimes I'm hoping that it will just be middle of the road, because it gets a bit scary looking at the table occasionally. But I was just able to completely let go of that and not worry about it for 3 days. And this is the first moment I've thought about Cov since Plymouth. So yeah, that was my moment of the week.
So you enjoyed your trip to Morecambe then?
Yes, it was lovely.
That's a joke, because it would have been unlikely that you'd have been sat on Morecambe Beach in January.
Not impossible, though.
Not impossible. No. Hardy Brexiteers, I imagine, sat on the beach and loving every moment of it. I don't even know if I've got a moment of the week. The fact that it's Groundhog Day, which I think we'll probably come on to into quite some level of discussion. I just think it. Actually, I'm going to try and take a positive spin out of it. If you take all of the results and all of the misses, which admittedly are 2 quite key components out of these games, there have been some really long spells of really interesting, good-looking play, haven't there? I kind of think we are going to go on over the next hour to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But I saw Robbins talking after the Blackpool game about sort of, do we need to go back to a physical approach, which just seems to me tantamount to playing Johnson, Clark, Harris up front. There's a very little extra difference there. But I sort of think, why don't we just persevere with something that might eventually pay off if we had a more clinical striker up front? But anyway, we'll talk about that, I'm sure. Let's go I think we've missed 3 games, but we're just going to go back to the last 2, and then we'll reference AFC Wimbledon's, admittedly similar circumstances, should they arise. Laurie, we started off with Plymouth away, and I'm struggling to remember pretty much any of it. Maybe you can fill in my blanks.
Yeah, so I was just having a quick look over my notes, and actually my notes mixed up between a student and my Cov notes. And so I had the heading of this essay at the start, which is actually weirdly prescient because it says, how did you present new insight into familiar subject matter? Which I thought was very apt for our current malaise. Plymouth was a pleasant day out. It was really bright, sunny weather. I drove down from Bristol. I haven't been there since I was about 11, went with my dad. They've knocked down one side of the stadium now, and it looks like an absolute car crash, but the rest of the stadium's nice.
I remember that actually now, yeah.
How long's that been there for? God, it looks awful. It's just like a kind of post-apocalyptic nightmare down one side of the ground. But yeah, we had Tom Davies back into the team. The sun was out. Everything was looking good. Bright had come into the team. Hawula had been pushed out to the left, and so I was kind of interested to see where Bright would play. And it turned out he was kind of a deep-lying number 10, but in a kind of marching quarterback role, whereby I think his instruction was just to get his foot on the ball and spread the play as much as possible. And that's what he did. Because I'd seen him against, was it against Wimbledon? He was playing, and
it was his first game, yeah.
He looked a little bit just confused as to what was being expected of him, and a little bit unfit, all the above. But he was brilliant from minute one. I thought he dominated proceedings. He wanted to get his foot on the ball. He was always able to pick a pass. His awareness was really good. Like, he would know where men were coming behind him, spinning people, bring other people into play. Really strong. He forced a good save from the keeper once early on, and then Thomas pulled one back for him that he really should have scored, but he ended up kind of hitting it straight at the keeper. But it seemed like an unbelievable save from where we were watching. But I think on the replay, it just gets smashed into him. So I was really impressed with him, and he was the fulcrum of everything we did in this lovely 25-minute spell where we looked like a genuinely good team, and Plymouth looked just absent, essentially. So yeah, it was all looking very promising. Thomas, he set up that chance for Bright at the beginning, did his man in one of those situations where you feel a bit sorry for the defender, because the defender knows exactly what Thomas wants to do, and he knows what he's going to do, and he's just powerless to stop it. Thomas is just toying with him, and then he just does it, and the guy's like, oh, I mean, I know you're going to, there's nothing I can do. But yeah, it didn't come to a goal. Bayliss got a lot of time on the ball. Plymouth weren't really pressing, so he had quite a lot of involvement in the game. Ruben Ramirez was there. He was trying very hard. Missed one absolute sitter when someone pulled one back to him, or maybe even closer than the penalty spot, and he skied it over the top. And people were giving him abuse, and I thought that was just like, what is wrong with you? Yeah. Like, he was in an awful team. He was a good player. He didn't do amazing. But then it was really nice at the end, actually, because he clapped the away fans, and I applauded him, and so did quite a lot of other people. So I hope he doesn't think we're all wrong-uns. Anyway, other people who were doing okay. Mason back in, one incredible saving tackle that he produced and was involved quite a lot. Chaplin was pretty isolated. Had a moment where he's one-on-one and kind of brutally overhit his touch. there was a lovely African choir at halftime, which is a little bit better than, no offense to Neil, watching some bloke kick a ball into a net or trying to kick it into the net. They were great. Didn't really have Plymouth down as being like full of esoteric halftime delights, but yeah, it's really good. And who else was remarkable? Grimmer. Felt a bit bad for him because I'm all up for bringing in this brilliant lone players like Sterling, and it's hard to really fight Grimmer's corner when he comes in and just has a bit of a stinker. Just kept kicking the ball out of play and just doing rubbish stuff, and you're like, Grimmer, I really can't stand up for you if you're going to play like that.
It is tough being out of the team for a long while and then trying to get back into the rhythm of it, isn't it? I think he's been slightly hard done by in the sense of I don't think he did anything wrong to deserve being dropped out of the team. But if you had two cars and one of them was good and the other one was amazing, you'd just drive the amazing car, wouldn't you? It doesn't mean that the other car's like a pile of shit. It's just he's just unlucky that we've got like a rental car that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that summarises it pretty well. So yeah, it's sad for him. And also one thing I don't really understand, and maybe this is just me being a bit basic, but we seem to always have these starting 11s named when suddenly just someone's out of the team, and it'll be because of an injury, hopefully, or they won't even be in the squad. And is that just Robbins keeping his cards really close to his chest and just doesn't want to let anyone know?
Well, it's pulled up in the warm. Once you release the team sheet, that's meant to be officially it. But Willis just pulled up in. We seem to have quite a lot of players who can pick up niggly injuries.
Week or two injuries, yeah.
Yeah, Willis is one of those players who always seems to be, in fact, Willis and Davis. You're never really sure if they're going to be on the pitch until they're actually there, are you? Because they're both...
No, but I'm thinking people like... Am I imagining this? Bayliss wasn't even in the squad on Saturday, and Sterling was out of the team.
But I think Bayliss has been carrying an injury for a while, from what I understand. Okay. So thing is sometimes just... Yeah, I mean, because the other players, we've not really been sure if Tony Andrews been fit or injured all season. And a bit similar with Agogo and Junior Brown. You're never really sure why they're not in the squad. I think we know now that he just doesn't rate them. But there was the other team when he played the left back against AFC Wimbledon. Again, it was just he chose to play the youth left back. Yeah, McCallum, as opposed to playing either of the two left backs he signed in the summer. I don't quite understand. Mason's fine. I mean, he's not amazing, but he's fine.
He's a good player. He's a good player for this level, I think.
I've been quite impressed with him, yeah. I almost think he has almost not flown under the radar, but that in a season where we've had such tremendous successes in Thomas and Sterling, such tremendous disappointments in Bakayoko, and I'll wait for somebody else to say some names here, but he's just come in and been pretty good, hasn't he? And actually, he's had a big spell out of the team while Brown was preferred. You wonder if he might kick on and do really well if he stays as first choice left back till the end of the season. I feel like he probably would.
Is he on loan as well?
No,
he's permanent. Yeah,
he's permanent. Oh, great.
It just feels like, but I sort of get the whole sort of Sterling Grimmer thing. I just don't think either of the left backs we signed are better than Ryan Haynes.
Well, I guess there's an argument there about...
Mason's a better defender than Ryan Haynes,
I think that's probably about fair, isn't it? Yeah. And I think
I love Ryan Haynes.
Yeah, I do. But I would contest that we should have kept Ryan Haynes and just moved midfield. I would imagine that Ryan Haynes would have been more effective on the left wing or left of midfield than an out-of-position Huula. But there we go.
Is he out of position? Does anyone know what Huula's position is?
Well, does anyone know what Huula is at this point in time? Who, by turns, looks like a reasonably effective striker and a person who's never been anywhere near a football pitch before.
He did all right against Plymouth out wide, actually. I was a bit worried for him because he was noticeably shunted there. But, yeah, I thought he played well. And sorry, just to rattle through the rest of Plymouth. Chaplin's goal, I'm sure you've all seen it. Amazing free kick.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that was what the goal was. Not just a really, really good free kick, I thought.
It's just funny that it's like do you think people would prefer him just to, like, I don't know, scramble in one from 7 yards, like literally off his arse, just to prove that he was like scoring? Or like, I feel like he's almost going to get a little bit shortchanged for scoring a free kick that good, because people are like, well, that's not a striker's goal, is it?
Because I can already hear Paul chipping in. Yeah.
But that's the thing. That's the only goals he scored are from a yard or a set piece. And I think this is going to Chaplin very quickly for a second before we go into a bit more detail later. I think what's pissing people off is the fact, I know it's like he's our top goal scorer. He is, but he's either scored 7 or 8 goals, of which 3 of them, or 4 of them, depends if you're given the AFC Wimbledon goal, have been in open play. The other 4 have been, they're, you know, it's an amazing set piece. It is a fantastic free kick, and all power to him. But it gets to the point where it's like, unless we get a free kick on the edge of the area, what else is he doing? You know, against you look at some of the chances he's missed, and you're like, yeah, if we get a free kick on the edge of the area, he's absolutely deadly. For the other 9 games out of 10 where we don't get a free kick on the edge of the area, which he pings into the top corner, is he scoring other goals?
I know football doesn't work like this, but I would trade in his 2 free kick goals for him to have scored a fraction of the chances that you would imagine he would have scored in the run-up to him getting them. Does that make sense? The header on Saturday being the most prominent of them. But he's had so many chances this season where you think, oh, it's a goal, and it just isn't. I just think the free kicks were brilliant, and I mainly want to not be constantly criticising him, because I do think we've got to remember that he's 21. I think we've got to remember that there's an element of he was in and out of the team at Portsmouth. I also think he's been played as a number 10 where he's probably less comfortable, so I think there's some mitigating circumstances. He also looked really bright when he very first came into the team, so I don't want to be constantly kicking him, but you can't get away from the fact that he should have scored more goals at this point, and that I think you're right, Laurie. I think it's probably churlish when you hear it out loud, but I sort of don't care about the free kicks and penalties. We bought him because we needed him to replace Martin McNulty, and that hasn't happened.
Yeah, it hasn't happened. Anyway, we'll get into that a bit more later on. They equalised in slightly less glamorous fashion than our goal. I mean, it's so bad. It just goes everywhere. And there's never really a clear moment where you're just like, put your foot through it. But there are so many half moments where someone probably could have tried a little bit harder to just put their foot through it. And then it ends up with Ruben and he slots it in. This was about 30 seconds before JCH came on. And I was just watching JCH watch this happen. And surprisingly very little reaction from him. He just kind of stood there with his hands on his hips, being like, oh, I've come on and now it's much worse. I remember I used to always find that weird when that would happen to me when I played football. And it happened quite a bit. And then you're like, I hope no one notices that I just come on. We did. He was in the other half of the game, though, so it wasn't his fault. We then were floundering, like the distant memory of us playing this beautiful football in the first half an hour. There was no movement in the box. You don't even really want us to put crosses in because no one was there to get on the end of them. People pulling out of the box to kind of pick it up short, and it was just super frustrating to watch. And just as Plymouth started to threaten to score another goal, they did. Ruben again, I think it was from a corner, and he shot on a little deflection, wrong-footed Burge, 2-1. Flares on the pitch, all the usual. And then we had 2 really good chances to equalise towards the end, involving JCH. He won a header, pulled one back, and Chaplin was 1-on-1 with the keeper. But you just, like you said, Joey, it's a goal. Oh no, it's not a goal, because it never was going to be a goal. He hits it straight at the keeper. This Chaplin doesn't go in. And then I have a note about another amazing chance when, I can't remember who played this amazing reverse pass, but it plays in Chaplin, and he shoots from a really tight angle when he should have pulled back to JCH, and JCH was so angry he was basically going to slot it into an open goal. And that was that. There was another one with a deflected effort that went over the bar, but they closed out the end of the game after these efforts relatively easily, and their fans were delighted, especially because in the first half hour it looked like we were going to really clean them up, but never came to fruition. Very disappointing.
Paul, any thoughts on anything that Laurie's given us a rundown on?
So, you have to go back to the very start of this. I've seen Bright play twice, and passing didn't look like something he was really that bothered about. Was he really? How did he play against? You sort of saying he was getting the ball and distributing and passing and like an actual sort of central midfielder would? Because all I've seen him do is like these amazing pointless tricks in the middle of the pitch, which is like nowhere.
Yeah, that was the strange thing. He was almost playing in the way like a central midfield playmaker would play, but he was technically, or at least on the team sheet, up front with Chaplin. But he was always looking for the ball. He was suddenly had so much confidence, always wanted the ball, and his default move was to get the ball with his back to goal, quite far away from goal, spin a man, and spread the play quite far. He'd normally play a cross-field ball and open up the play for one of the fullbacks, one of the wide men, and just that kind of play that in League One, in the Premiership, no one would even like remark on it. But in League One, you're like, that. All right, not everyone can do that. That's good.
Did anyone see what the Plymouth manager said about him afterwards?
No.
He basically said he's the best player that has ever played in League One. Like he had, like the praise that he heaped upon him was really quite shocking. I mean, that was an exaggeration, obviously, but he really did say, he said, that's the best that anyone has played against us this season, and that's the best performance I'm likely to see all season, I think he said. I thought he was really good. I thought he was really very good, very impressive, certainly until we went behind. And then I think, as per the game that we're about to move on to, I think all of a sudden the game changed and we sort of lost our footing in it. But I thought he was really, really good. I think he was much better in that game than either of the home games that he's played in. But overall, I've thought he's looked... It's so difficult not to keep saying that he's looked bright, but that he just has. Paul, what did you think about him in the Blackpool game?
As I said, he can beat a man, but it's a bit like... I said this to Pritchard at the time. It's a bit like being in a children's choir and then having sort of Beyonce hitting all these high notes for no apparent reason and out of sort of context with the rest of the song, when everyone else around is like going, why are they doing that? Because you would just get the ball, you'd skin someone in the centre of the park, and you were like, okay, and then that would be it. You would just give the ball away, or I go back to the Reece Brown thing. Stop showing me how good you are. Just be good. And with Bright, it was like, look at me. Look, I can skin this man. I can do this. I can do that. And it's like, but you haven't done anything. You haven't achieved anything. It's pointless. Do something which affects the game. You're not affecting the game. You could have done that without doing the fancy tricks. And it just seems odd that we've signed him to play as a number 10 when we had Tony for months who we didn't play as a number 10. And then when we're chasing the game in the second half, he takes him off and moves Chaplin in number 10, where we all know that Chaplin's pretty shit as a number 10. And it's like, this, what? Bright, I can't get my... Technically, he's fine. And obviously, Plymouth, he was really good. The two home games, it's just been a bit like, I don't understand what you're doing, other than showing off.
I can't shake this vision of you as his, like, sensei. And that you're sort of his like master and teacher, and he's doing all this stuff, and you're saying it's not important to do; it's important to know why to do like that, and that you're going to sort of you're going to enrich his life and spirituality by taking him forward in that way. Is that a role that you see for yourself in the future?
I mean, I'd love to sit down and just say, stop dicking around and actually affect the game.
Not quite so sensei, that. It doesn't
No,
conjure
but
up images of you in a dojo, does it?
No, or him sort of wax on, wax off. But it's just a case of and it's one of those things where it's like you watch him and like there's clearly a naturally gifted footballer in there, but whether or not he's a naturally gifted footballer who's going to make an impact on the game is a completely different thing. Because we've all seen these players. It's like you're technically a magnificent, but you're not actually that useful. It's just like, and it's a big risk for him. I mean, it's a big risk for the way we're playing at the moment. We are struggling. After you've got the AFC Wimbledon game, which we've been very quickly just like briefed over, but they're bottom of the table. They're shit. They score within 2 minutes. We then huffed and puffed for 89 minutes to get a 1-1 draw, and we scored quite late on in that. We then play Plymouth, who are pretty shit in the bottom 4, and they beat us. Our run before this game on Saturday was 3 victories in 15. You look at the team sheet, and for me, the 3 players who have to be on that team sheet are, you have to have Sterling, you have to have Luke Thomas, and you have to have Bayliss. Because you take one of those 3 out, we've only won once this season when one of those in the league when one of those 3 haven't been playing, and that was on September the 9th away at Oxford, where Grimmer was playing instead of Sterling. That's the only time we've won a game without all 3 of those playing.
It's a lovely stat, by the way. It's just a fabulous stat.
But it's like you watch, and it's like, we'll get on to his replacement. Zane Westbrook. I've seen someone call him, he was awesome in the first half. He wasn't awesome in the first. He was good. He's a neat and tidy footballer. He doesn't really give the ball away. If you're gonna pin him as anyone, he's Ollie Norwood, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The way he plays is he's an academy kid. He's got a good range of passing. He looks up. He got a shot away. He's fine. He's absolutely fine. There's no criticism of him at all. He wasn't amazing. He was just neat and tidy. And that's a replacement for Bayliss. I think that's the sort of replacement for Bayliss we're going to get. We're not going to get someone like Bayliss who can drive the game forward. What we want is someone who's neat and tidy, and that's fine. And he had a good game. Alongside him, you have Kelly, who's still doing his Kelly stuff. So, centre midfield is fine-ish. The only question is can that, without Bayliss, is that an attacking enough midfield to give us enough spark going forward? Are they quick enough at using the ball?
Just very quickly, while you're talking about centre midfield, before you move on, I would agree with you on 2 points. I would say, one, do they have enough drive and character going forward to influence things? My worry is, do they have enough bite and sort of dominance to going backwards?
The thing is, it's like, it depends we might discuss this at the weekend. It depends what you're playing at. Blackpool weren't overly bothered. Blackpool weren't trying to dominate possession. That's the context you're playing in, isn't it? You've got to who you're playing against.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
If we're playing against a team who want possession, then you're completely correct. No, they don't have enough bite. If you're playing against a team who are quite happy to
give up the ball and let you go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, or their number 15 looked a really neat, tidy footballer. So they weren't a complete hoof-it merchants, but they weren't a team who were let's build from the back, let's make 50. And people talk about this a lot. There's 3 things that slightly annoying at the moment. One of them is like, they only had 3 shots. They were 2-0 up after like 55 minutes. They didn't need to have another shot after that.
Yeah.
How many shots? They scored twice. How many shots do they need? It's like, you can't go, but they only had 3 shots. It's like, but once they were 2-0 up, they weren't going to then bother us for like another 15 shots because they had 2 goals. Once they've gone 2-0 up, it's down to us to break them down. They're not going to continue to play open. Why would they? They're 2-0 up. The other one is like, we have all this possession. It's like, because teams are quite happy to watch Dominic Hyam have the ball. They're not worried about Dominic Hyam having the ball. And we had this run in the first half where we played about 15 passes, and it was like, this is good football, this is good build-up play. And then the shot, and it's on the highlights, is Luke Thomas having a shot from outside the area at an angle where it's like 99s out of 100 is not going to go in. He might pelt it into the top corner, he might, but more often than not, even if he gets it on target, it's going to be somewhere the keeper can save it like he did. It's like, that's where we're at. People are happy for us to have the ball because they know, unless the ball's at Sterling's feet, or Thomas to an extent, we're not particularly a threat. We're not actually that dangerous. We'll have shots. We have a lot of shots from outside the area, but they're not sort of weighted in favour of us scoring. They're weighted in favour of the defence, it hitting a defender or it hitting the keeper. So our possession stats, they're just it's all a bit meaningless, because the end result is we're not winning games. And the other thing is, like, start the second half, my mate was on his phone. He was like, watch this. Well, why do I want to watch this? This is how we can see goals. Oh, they put a set piece in. Oh, he's headed the ball. Oh, they were 1-0 down. Every week.
I don't actually understand what that means. Was he showing you something that
No,
he was showing you some sort of tactical analysis of how we can see goals?
No, he was just happily texting his mate, and it was like, this is how we can see goals. This is how Coventry City can see goals. The opposition get a set piece and they score. It's been like that all season. You're like, we can't keep, and it's like, that's down to training. There's down that we're not very good at defending set pieces.
And that's odd, isn't it? Because, like, you'd say that that's the part of the team where most people are relatively pleased with Burge, they're pleased with Hyam, Davies and Willis, and we're pretty pleased with the fullbacks as well. And yet we concede crap goals. The goals against Plymouth were crap. I haven't actually seen them, but it sounds like the goals against Blackpool weren't particularly good either. Like, what do we do about that? Was that team defending?
I think it's team defending, isn't it? And I think it's why I go back to that point before about the bite in the midfield. Is actually, have you got? He talked about Johnson Clark Harris. Robbins did after the Blackpool game about bringing him in, and him talking about it being in both boxes. And I think if you look outside of those immediate defensive players, actually, Kelly, Westbrook, Thomas, Chaplin, there's not a great deal of full team defending, is there? And actually, if you were savvy enough in the box, now bearing in mind, I don't think this is an excuse for the fucking shoddy goal that we conceded for Delphineso, but that actually you do make it quite hard for yourself when you've only got a handful of people capable of defending a corner because they're over 6 foot.
Well, I mean, that's the decision you go with. Is basically, I'm going to play small attacking players, which is fine as long as those small attacking players are scoring goals. The second goal, Hyam for me has been really good this season. The second goal is horrific, absolutely horrific. Basically, it's a punt downfield. The big lad stood with Hyam. The ball bounces outside the area. Hyam stood to one side. Hyam's preventing him from turning towards the corner flag. The guy lets the ball bounce 3 times, and then inside the area, swings and hits it into the corner, with Hyam still the wrong side of him. Everything about that goal is like, this isn't how you defend at any level. Kids, this is shocking defending. You're like,
go on.
No, it's just like and the other thing for us is we don't score that goal, because if the ball's doing that, their defender just takes Chaplin out. I'm not fucking worried about you. I'm not. Even if JCH, you tell you, probably falls over looking for a free kick. It's a bread and butter League One goal, punt downfield. We don't score those goals. We don't have it in us, because we're trying to be too fancy. So if we've got great creative players, we don't, do we? Because we don't score goals. I know we create all these. We have loads of creative chances. We're top 10 creative, and it's like we have a lot of shots from outside the area. We have a lot of shots from stupid positions and strange angles. What we don't have is enough decent opportunities for players to score. Either that, or our strikers are just shit.
I think they have enough opportunities to score. I think there's them not. I think every week we're seeing 2 chances where we're holding our heads and going, I don't understand how that's not a goal. And it doesn't have to be as stark as the Chaplin one on Saturday. It can just be where you think, oh well, that is a very, very good chance, and Hiwula balloons it wide after Bayliss's return pass, or the Johnson Clark Harris header on Saturday. Like, there's a ton of chances where you even off the top of your head you could just say you would have thought that at least one of those would have gone in recent weeks. So I agree with you. I don't think we're like a well-oiled machine, like everything's going absolutely perfectly and then it falls apart at the last minute. Like, I think there's still extra work to do, but I do think we would be talking very differently about how things were had we had whoever it is up front, whoever the archetype prolific striker is that you want to put into this situation.
I still think I'd like to see Hawula be given 5 games up front. Just not because I think he's the answer to all of our problems. I think the answer to our problems doesn't particularly like the football club at this moment in time. It's just I'm a bit sick of seeing.
Wow.
To be honest, I'm a bit sick of seeing Chaplin be. And another reason I say that is because everyone's like, oh, he's just lacking confidence. Well, according to Chaplin, if he takes the Luke Thomas goal against AFC Wimbledon, he scored 4 in 4, and he's still playing. He's playing badly. I mean, he's playing badly. That it's not a case of he doesn't score. It's a case of he doesn't score. He's not even playing well to not even score. He's just giving the ball away. His build-up play is rubbish. He's a player out of form, and it's a case of we're sticking with him. So if we get a free kick or a penalty, he might score, but we can't keep doing this. It's whatever anyone thinks about Hawula, and I don't think Hawula had a particularly good game. The thing is, he had 2 opportunities and he made the keeper save both of his shots. Yeah, they're not, the one shot, the Graven makes a great save with his foot, but he does get his shots on target. It's, but the thing is, we are looking at this like a bald man looking for his hairs, isn't it? It's like where are the goals going to come from? But we knew this at the start of the season. Someone asked the question on Twitter. It's like, where do you go? What do you look at? We looked at these players we were signing in the summer. We said Bakayoko doesn't score. Hawula's goal scoring rate isn't particularly great, and no one knows where he plays. Is he a left winger? Is he a centre forward? Bakayoko, when he came on Saturday, went up front, then went to the left wing, then played up front with JCH.
I feel terribly sorry for him, by the way.
Yeah, JCH. We knew last season he barely scored. We know JCH isn't a goal scorer. We've known that since he came through as a youth player, that he isn't a goal scorer. You look at his career, he's never scored goals. And then the big gamble was on Chaplin. And again, look at Portsmouth. Portsmouth never played him 4 games on the bounce. Portsmouth didn't trust him in the way that we are. We're relying on one player to score us goals. Where are the goals from midfield? Where are the goals from the rest of the team? Why are we relying on our one striker to score us all those goals? Why aren't we more castrating the fact that... And it was the same last season. Our second highest goal scorer was the Duck, who basically didn't play the second half of the season. I think the third highest or fourth highest was Jody Jones, who got injured in October or November. This is an ongoing issue for even last season. Even though we got promoted last season, it was a case of as a team, we don't score enough goals. We don't score enough some set pieces. We don't score enough of the easy goals. Those 2 goals we conceded against Blackpool aren't goals that we score ourselves. And that's the issue. Teams know how to defend against us. And Luke Thomas has been great this season. Saturday was the first time you sat there and just went, he's a little bit off it today. He hasn't got his spark today. And that's not a criticism of Luke Thomas. He's been really good. But we've said this about youth players every single time we get them. They're going to go through a natural dip. They're going to be like, shit, I've played 25, 30 games. I've got 30 games in my legs. I'm just not quite at it at the moment. And it's like, it's teetering, isn't it, at the moment? It's teetering on where we're going to go from here.
What we're going to do is we're going to drop Dom's preview in now, and then we'll come on to where we're going to go from here. So just as we do, a little cliffhanger question for you. Gillingham have got an ex-Coventry City midfielder on the subject of goal-scoring midfielders who has 5 goals this season. Do either of you know who it is?
No.
You're about to find out. Ladies and gentlemen, Dom's preview. Hi Dom, how's it going?
Not too bad.
Next up in our succession of games against teams that we should beat, that we'll labour to a draw or a defeat against Gillingham. What can you tell us about them?
Yeah, so they're pretty much bang on par for this season. Really, they're probably have one of the smaller budgets in this division. We've got a relatively inexperienced manager in Steve Lovell, who was a coach there for quite a while and took over as caretaker manager last season and did reasonably well. But sort of just fighting against not having much money and kind of signing quite a few players who probably wouldn't be playing in League One if Gillingham hadn't signed them. But what they do have, and that might be depending on what happens in the rest of the January transfer window, because he is being lined up by Sunderland as a backup for if they don't get Will Grigg, is Tom Eaves, their big man in attack, the guy who constantly dubbed sort of the lower league Andy Carroll, and you can see why. He's a big striker, very good in the air, and he has a man bun, so that sort of ticks all the boxes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sort of very much centred around Eaves. If you take his 14 goals out the side, they would be one of the lowest scorers in the division. They have one of the poorer defences as well, so that is clearly the difference for them. They do have a few other useful players. They got Elliot Liss, who scored in their cup win recently over Cardiff, who is more of a winger, but because Gillingham, their manager Steve Lovell, is very much wedded to either a 4-4-2 diamond formation or 3-4-1-2, which are pretty similar systems, really, just sort of taking a midfielder and dropping them into defence. He's sort of shoehorned into the side as a striker, but he's someone who can make an impact. Also scored a very good goal against us back in August to level the game. So he's one to keep an eye on. We've also got Josh Parker, who's had a very interesting career. He's played in non-league, he's played in Eastern Europe, and he's come to Gillingham and been a reasonably effective source of goals and assists. He got about 9 or 10 last season, and he's on a decent amount this season. He's not super prolific, but he's sort of a good all-rounder in attack, can link the play a bit, can get on the score sheet. And then in midfield, generally, Gillingham are quite a hard-working side. They've got Callum Riley playing for them, who is seemingly quite well liked there.
That's
very
former
very
Coventry
energetic.
City player Callum Riley, is that right?
Yeah, he was on loan with us. Sort of wasn't good, wasn't bad.
Oh, I'm not sure Paul would agree with that one, but I'm sure he doesn't agree with much in terms of that sort of thing. But he's got 5 goals this season, is that right?
Yeah, he's their penalty taker. So
I see, okay.
That's boosted there. And then another player to watch out for is their left back, Bradley Garmston, who is absolutely rapid. And he's a big part of that system they play. They need their full-backs to bomb forward. At right back, they've got Luke O'Neill, who's very good delivery from set piece and open play. So clearly the plan is to sort of work hard, block up the middle as best they can, and then get crossed into the box for Tom Eaves. So I think a lot could rest really on this game over whether Gillingham can keep a hold of Tom Eaves. There's an indication that they might be looking to sell him because he is out of contract in the summer. So if they can get any money for him now, they might take him. But of course, that would probably be the difference between staying up and going down. So it's going to be sort of interesting to see how that plays out. I suspect that they will probably keep a hold of him. I reckon Sunderland will probably get Will Grigg. So that'll be that. But I think that's sort of the main factor going to this game. I think this is going to be another game, as you said earlier, where we're expected to win. It's a reasonably, it's a home game. We should be expecting to win. Gillingham, they've got a sort of template. They know how they want to play. They just don't necessarily always have the quality to enact it. They tend to play better against better teams. You saw in beating Cardiff recently, they've got a few decent results against teams like Sunderland and Portsmouth this season, but generally they're one of the weakest sides in the division, and it's probably going to be a game where we're going to have a lot of the ball, a lot of chances, and it's whether we can take them, especially as Gillingham are playing a system where they don't have natural wide men. There's going to be a lot of space down the flanks probably, especially for Dujon Sterling and Brandon Mason to bomb on and sort of get crosses into the box. So I think it's just going to be a case of whether we're going to take our chances this time, which we've seemingly not been doing recently.
Just before I let you go, I wanted to ask you about something that I heard Robin say, certainly post Blackpool. he mentioned that he had been trying to incorporate players that played more of a kind of technical, energetic, buzzy style of football, and that he was considering reverting back to a more physical team, which, as far as I can tell, basically just means bringing Johnson Clark-Harris back into the team. I just wondered whether you'd got any thoughts on the style of play at the moment and what you would do.
I mean, if you take aside the fact that we haven't been getting results, which is obviously the most important thing in football, but has been actually quite enjoyable to watch us recently. Stuff like the Southend game, like that goal we scored there was brilliant, involving a passing move from the whole team. Even against AFC Wimbledon, you take out that early goal, we absolutely dominated that game and created chances. It wasn't just a sterile, tippy-tappy, passy style of performance. And then against Blackpool last week, again, while we didn't take the chances, maybe you kind of stick to this. I understand that we are getting into a position now where we do need to pick up a couple of wins just to knock that spectre of dropping into relegation zone on its head. And maybe if that's sort of sticking, sort of going back to basics for the next month or so, and then getting the results, and then towards the end of the season trying to set a template for next season, maybe that isn't a terrible idea. I think we really do need to sort out the issues at the back. Okay, I imagine Robbins will have spent a lot of this week just working on defensive shape and defending set pieces, because that's clearly been an Achilles heel for us recently. If we kept clean sheets in the last 3 games, we'd have 7 more points, and we'd probably still be thinking we might make the playoffs.
We'd be very much in the playoff mix-up, wouldn't we? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good stuff. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you next week.
All right, speak to you then.
There you go, Callum Riley. Callum Riley on 5 goals for Gillingham this season. Paul, favourite player of yours from yesteryear?
A great engine on him. Absolutely amazing. Well, it wasn't that Ramirez's 10th goal of the season or something when he scored against us?
I'm going to look that up in a second while you're answering this question. So we talked at the top about Robbins injecting some physicality into the team, which seems to just be putting Johnson Clark-Harris back in. Paul, what would you do at the moment? So who would you be in your starting lineup for Saturday?
Oh, that's a great question. The reason I say that's a great question is because normally at this point in the season where things aren't going particularly well, you sat there going, well, X, Y or Z should be on the pitch. And there isn't X, Y or Z who should be on the pitch at the moment. I mean, I agree with the people who say we miss Doyle's personality. Whether or not we miss Doyle the footballer is a different argument. But we definitely miss
a Doyle-style player, I think, 100%, yeah.
I mean, it is a young side. Again, you could argue the reason it's a young side is because the senior players he's brought in have been failures, or they haven't been given enough opportunity, or, there is a parallel universe out there where Junior Brown, Agogo, Tony Andrew and JCH are playing, which does increase the age of the first team quite a bit. But, they're not, for whatever reason. There
is also a parallel universe out there, of course, where Junior Brown and Agogo have the heads of dogs, which make them look hilarious, but is ultimately pointless in terms of, yeah.
But you know what I mean? If you look at the start of the season, Junior Brown, Agogo, Tony Andrew, they were all in the starting 11. And for whatever reason, they've dropped off the face of the earth. It's a bit like if we had Max Biamu, Connor Chaplin would be scoring loads of goals. And it's like, well, A, if that's true, why aren't we signing another target man? And B, at the start of the season, we were playing 4-2-3-1. So surely, if that was the case, he was still looking to play Chaplin in this number 10 role, because that's when Biamu was fit. We were playing that system. So we still wouldn't have played 2 up front and him being we can't rewrite history. It's like that's how we started the season with that system. If Chaplin had been here from day one, he wouldn't have been up front with Biamu in a 4-4-2. It might have come out like that when 4-2-3-1 didn't work, but I don't think that was the general plan. I think the plan was 4-2-3-1. In general, in answer to your question, I haven't got a clue, mate. I mean, it's you take Chaplin out, you put someone else in who's probably not going to score goals. The midfield is, if you do take Lewis Thomas out, which I'm not saying you would, but if you thought he was getting a bit tired, there's no one in the squad really who's going to play on the right wing. I mean, you could put Sterling there and put Grimm at right back, but I don't think that's particularly a goer. The defence is, with Willis out, the defence is the defence, isn't it? I mean, there's no obvious candidate for he should be in the team. I think and we're looking to bring in a left winger. It is what it is. It's just the squad is mediocre. It's 2 or 3 players off being a playoff team. It's 1 or 2 injuries away from potentially being a relegation fight. That's where we are.
Very quickly, Ruben Ramirez has indeed scored 10 goals, and Freddie Ladapo for Plymouth has got 13, and yet they find themselves in 18th, and we're 11th, and our top scorer has got 7. I'm always amazed by that.
A guy at Rochdale's got 15. Henderson?
Ian Henderson again, or have they got?
Have
they got a Henderson Regenderson?
I think Ian Henderson must have. He's around 5th, maybe it's 13 or something, but he's up towards the top goal scorers, and they're one place outside the relegation zone as well.
Interesting, Laurie. What would you do?
Remind me of the question: who to bring in? Or
who would you start on Saturday, assuming that we sign this mystery left winger that Robbins has been promised and will possibly turn out to be a prank on the part of some malevolent Championship club?
I don't know, because I listened to him the other day in this meeting at the London Supporters Club, and he spoke really, really fluently about how he had this vision for the club and the way we play and all of this, and that was all connected to all of the kind of signings that we make. And I was really quite enjoying this small player approach, because the football was nice and we were creating lots of chances, we weren't winning games. But we're now on such a stinking run, and I was quite enjoying Clark Harris coming off the bench and being an impact player. But that worked really well to an extent at Scunthorpe, even though we ended up, I think we lost. Yeah, we lost. But his impact was still very big. But now I think, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I think we do need a little bit more of a presence there from the start. I just really wish Clark Harris was a goal-scoring version of what he is, because what I think he really lacks is that instinct to just make for the box when crosses are coming in, when he's kind of maybe held the ball up, spread it wide. He doesn't really want to get in the box or get in front of his defender or get on the penalty spot. He kind of just ambles in and he's done his job there in a way. He's like, well, I don't really score goals. I've held the ball up and now I'll just kind of be in the area. He doesn't have any kind of killer instinct of a striker. And we need that so much, because we've basically got a kind of deadweight striker who's up front and is going to get us 5 goals by default per season because he's there. But I really think, much as Chaplin's an issue, I think the fact that we accept having Clark Harris on the pitch a lot of the time and his goal threat is so minimal is pretty damaging to the overall goal tally of the team.
You could have basically referred to anyone by saying that they will score goals basically because they're there. It's like Chaplin's goals in open play. I think 2 of them are the 2 at home. Well, even if you class the AFC Wimbledon at home, that was I think the earliest he scored is the 85th minute. It's and then his goal against Scunthorpe was quite late on, isn't it? So I think the 4 goals he scored in open play, I could be wrong, but I reckon probably the earliest he scored is the 85th minute, which is purely just at that point, if any striker was on the pitch, if you played
the Bradford one was quite early.
Yeah, fun.
I think the Bradford goal was quite early.
So that was a set piece.
Okay, sorry.
His 4 goals in open play, I don't think, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty certain he scored against Wycombe, but that was really late on. He scored against Peterborough, which was in the 90th minute. The goal against AFC Wimbledon was really late on, and the goal against Scunthorpe was late on. Maybe the goal against Scunthorpe was slightly earlier than that. But definitely, the 3 he scored at home have been just, in the last 5 minutes.
such a specific point to make that he scored his goals only from open play come towards the last. I mean, you're right, but I'm not too sure what relevance that has. Like, does that?
But isn't that don't you think that's slightly odd though?
Do you mean once the game's gone, or
just basically it's sort of, it's sort of like he's got, just sort of. It's just the fact I just thought about. It is quite odd that he just, in open play he hasn't scored in like the first half. Surely that is odd. Surely.
Well, it isn't. It isn't. If
he doesn't score goals until the last 10 minutes, surely that is a bit odd.
I think it's possible that it's too few goals to make any meaningful conclusions out of. So it's possible that maybe he's fitter than the rest. Maybe his fitness is fantastic, and that or maybe there's something about how they leave more space as But I agree with you. There is some correlation there, but it's hard to tell exactly what that is because they've been so disparate. They haven't come in a run. There's been no other consistent circumstances, has there? But you're absolutely right. There is, they have been late goals. I'm going to move on to some listener questions then, if I can find some. So why don't we start with who can tell this is me filling, because I haven't got any ready. Mark Strong, I'm going to throw this to Laurie. Is there any realistic threat of relegation or playoffs, and if so, how real is it?
Well, I'm just looking at the table now, and I know this is unrelated, but Luton, Jesus Christ, what a time to be a Luton fan. There are so many bad teams in this league, and even when we were maybe the worst we've ever been, in the last 15, 20 years, we still didn't even manage to finish bottom of this division. And there are so many cack teams down there, although noticeably Wimbledon, Rovers are there, and Rovers dealt with us. I really don't see it. I think we've got enough. We have enough good players, although worrying we don't really have anyone to look forward to. No one's really coming back from injury or anything like that. But no, I think we'll be fine. This season's I've booked so much travel for the end of the season, and I think so many of the games are going to be completely meaningless.
Dead rubbers.
Dead rubbers from start to finish. In a way, let's get involved in a relegation battle. Keep it interesting. But no, we're good enough. We're shit, but we're good enough. We have Luke Thomas and Dujon Sterling and a whole raft of strikers, one of whom might score 10 goals between now and the end of the season. There's only 15 games left. We'll be fine.
It is a bit worrying, though, because our away form is shit, and we play 6 of the top 7 away from home. So, and the other 2 games away from home are in the Northwest, which, again, somewhere we're absolutely horrific, as anyone who lived in the Northwest and goes to a lot of games, away games in the Northwest, will testify. So, there is... look at the league table. We're 8 points off second from bottom. So...
Am I looking at the right league table? How many games have we played?
The most up-to-date one, because there's games going on at the moment.
Okay.
So basically, Rochdale second bottom on 31 points. So there's basically, I think Wickham are sort of out of it on 42. But we're 8 points off second from bottom.
What worries me there is 4 of the bottom 5 have scored more goals than us.
Yeah, we don't score goals. We're conceding goals. Our away form's shit. As Ian Heron so succinctly put as well, the thing again about the Plymouth game was, one thing that made the Plymouth game slightly more worrying than some of the others is we were actually leading in that game and we threw it away against a poor team. And that's, Blackpool was shit on Saturday. The amount of times the ball just went out of play was quite horrific. But again, the way that we were playing, Mason's a left back. He's left footed. He throws the ball to one of our players, and the amount of times he has to try and then they play the ball straight back to him. The amount of times it's on his right foot, or it just goes out of play, and you're like, this is basic stuff, lads. He's your teammate. You should know what foot he is. Why are you playing it to his right foot? Think we're not playing particularly well, and there are other teams out there with a bit of momentum. we need 4 more victories to stay up. So basically, we've got to win as many games as we have in the last 17 in our next 16. I just don't think a lot of people are like, the season's dead. It is if we win 3 games or 4 games. If we don't, it's, and the other thing is the team's so young that losing can become quite an easy habit, because especially
as we've proved.
Yeah, the team that went down to League 2 was very young, wasn't it?
Yeah, and again, it's like, again, against Blackpool, while they didn't play badly, you're not come away going, he was a 4, he was a 4, you come away going, actually, individually, they were fine. There were 5, there were 6s. They weren't, no one was brilliant, no one was, maybe Zane Westbrook was a 7, maybe he was a 6, but there was no one you just walk away going, that guy, the only person was probably Hyam, but that's mainly for the second goal, not his overall performance. So it's not even like they're playing terribly. They're just, and so I know, complete tangent. It's also like the atmosphere. Like we went 1-0 down, and it's like, this is basically what happens. There was a little bit of booing, a little bit of people getting a bit angry, but most of it was just people just sat there just going, this is basically what happens.
That's a really good point to make. So it's very difficult to gauge that from watching in Romania, as I often do. But on Saturday specifically, it was really noticeable, the fact that at 2-0 down with 20 minutes to go, you could just hear a pin drop. It just felt like everyone was just like, yeah, okay, let's just go home. We've lost this game, like we've lost some of the other ones recently. It felt so sterile. Like on the pitch, it felt like there was no real effort trying to be made to get back into the game, and nobody seemed particularly pissed off about it off the pitch. It was very odd, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the whole thing just feels a bit like just going through the motions. So the other thing is, you look at the team and it's like, well, Burgess coming to the end of his contract, Sterling's not going to be here, Luke Thomas isn't going to be here, Bright's not going to be here. Willis is out of contract, Davis is out of contract. Bayliss, you would have thought that Bayliss is probably going to move on in the summer. So you just, like, the whole thing feels in, obviously, we don't really discuss it, but you've got the off-the-field issues, like, are we going to be playing at the Rico next season? The whole thing feels a bit in flux, and you just, there's no, as Laurie said, it's not even like, are you waiting for someone to return from injury, or you're not angry because no. Doyle should be on the pitch. You're not angry. There's nothing, like, I think everyone sort of accepts, like, this is probably our best team. Is it playing the best formation? Maybe not. But that none of the players
Dare I say it? Is it's just about par for us?
I think the thing is, as I said, maybe this. I think the worry is that, as I said, my worry for this team is it's a young team, and they went 2-0 down, and it's almost like, they were there, but there was no one. That's what I was saying about missing Doyle. Is like there's no forceful personality on the pitch. Maybe the reason we concede, as much as I like Hyam, and I know everyone likes Tom Davis, but maybe the reason we concede so many goals at the back is there's no leader. There's no dominant centre half who sort of, I'll break someone's neck to clear this ball. I know we all think that Tom Davis is that guy, but you watch the set pieces and he's quite passive. He's not do or die in those situations. He's do or die in different situations. You look in midfield, it's like Kelly's captain normally, probably because he's the oldest player there. He's the only one who can grow a beard, but he's not. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have that personality. You look at the forward line. It's not just a young. It's an inexperienced forward line. It's a forward line who have never gone through these things. Like you look at again, you always go back to Chaplin as the easiest one. He's only been at Portsmouth. He's only really tasted success at Portsmouth. He's been promoted with Portsmouth. He's been in the team when they finished 8th in the League One last season, whatever. You look at Hawura, he's had 2 all rightest seasons at Bradford and Fleetwood, but he's not, You look at that team, it's like, who are the leaders? Who are the players who are going to dig us out of a hole when we're in a hole? And the last couple of games I've seen, when we're in a hole, you're like, actually, we're still waiting for Sterling or Thomas or Bayliss to do a bit of magic. That's basically what we're waiting for.
Well,
is it going to be enough?
As much as I hate to cut you off while you're building up a head of steam there, I feel like we should probably put a pin in this and come back to it next week or later in the season, because we're pretty much rapidly running out of time. So, any final, very urgent thoughts before I wrap things up? That sounds like a no to me. Laurie, thank you. Remind everyone again where to find your blog.
Yeah, I will write one again soon. Sorry, I'm going to the game on Saturday. It's called The Lonely Season .club.
And Paul, anything you'd like to plug?
No. Oh, it's a community day, so it's a £5 for a ticket for the Gillingham game.
That's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the sort of thing we should be doing.
Yeah, good stuff. Laurie, thank you.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Paul, thank you.
Cheers, buddy.
We will hopefully be back and a bit more regular from next week. Things have settled down in Lamptey Towers, so we should be good to go. So thanks for your perseverance, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye.